Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ahmad Muhammad Ramadan, and I'm going to present to you about my interviewee, and his name is Toshiki Yawata. He is half Japanese and half Chinese, and has been working and staying in Malaysia for 10 years in a company called CBRE, which is a real estate company. Alright, the first question that I has asked him, which is, do you recall your first experience interacting with English? Mr. Toshiki has answered that he interact with English from a very young age, but he started using English in his university. He studied English with his friend in a language lounge at his university. Moving on to our second question, which is, do you consider your country as fluent English speaking country? Mr. Toshiki answered that he does not consider his country, which is Japan, as a fluent English speaking country. Majority of Japanese cannot speak fluent English, but some of them can speak basic English for daily life or interacting with foreigner. But when we ask Japanese to answer a difficult or complex instruction and question, it will make them unable to answer the question properly. Moving on with our last question, which is, are there any slang words or phrases that your country use that other country don't? Mr. Toshiki answered that they use a lot of foreign words, ironically, but there is one particular phrases that Mr. Toshiki mentioned, which is makudo, means McDonald in Japan for some region. Makudo has been selected as official nickname for McDonald. Moving on with our last part, which is conclusion. Is English widely spoken in Japan? English is not widely spoken in Japan. However, unless you are planning to move to Japan, learning the language is not necessary. Why? People will appreciate if you can speak a few basic Japanese sentences, but nobody expects tourists to be fluent. Most people working in the tourism industry, for example, hotel or restaurant, will speak enough English to have a conversation with you, but don't expect everybody to speak English in Japan when you are visiting the country. My name is Adam, and
Yeah,
may I ask for your time a little bit for the same interview?
yeah,
And I'm going to ask you a few questions.
definitely. Yeah,
First of all, can you briefly introduce yourself?
yeah, no problem. Hi Ada. I'm so glad to see you. Yeah, so this is Toshiki Yawata. Yawata is my family name. So Toshiki is my given name. Currently I'm working and staying in Malaysia. I'm a Japanese, but I want to say I'm not a pure Japanese. I'm a half Japanese, half Chinese. So I was staying in China around 10 years from my 4 years old until 14 years old. So then after that, I went back to Japan. Then after I graduated from uni, so I came to Malaysia. So this is my 10th year in Malaysia. Currently, I'm working a company called CBRE. It is a real estate related company. And here, my function is doing the payment, do the invoice receiving, the issue shooting. So this is my 10th year here. Yeah, I think that is basic for my side.
Okay, we are going to move on to the question. We're going
Yeah,
to just a short and simple question.
yeah, no
First
problem.
of
Yeah.
all, do you recall your first experience interacting with English?
Oh.
Yes.
uh yeah, actually, I believe I was studying English from a kid, right? So for me, I start using English. I remember is in my uni. So that time, everyone is I remember the few of us is very interested in English to want to improve our English skill. So the time we gathering together in the room, then we have a language lounge. So actually, it's just a small space for us to talk in English. Yeah,
Moving on to the next question. Uh,
yeah.
do you consider your country as fluent English speaking country?
No, actually, Japan. I want to say no. So actually, most of them, lots of them cannot speak in English. Then also, definitely is fluent English. So, but I can say some of them can speak a little bit to answer the question. Maybe where is the staff? How much the staff? But if you ask them more difficult question, I think they cannot answer. Yeah.
This is our last question for today from me. Are there any slang words or phrases that your country use that other country don't?
You mean the slang word?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, actually, it's very funny one. Japanese in Japanese language, there are lots of the they are using lots of foreign word. So I believe you know the very common one is McDonald. So
Yes.
Japan also use Makudo Naruto. It's pronunciation like Japanese. It's really Japanese pronunciation. Yeah. So that is kind of slang. So Japanese have speak in English is very is their actually it's quite how to say they put more straight to when speak in English than using the way how they pronounce the Japanese. Yeah, actually it's very funny. Yeah.
Okay. That's all from me from today. Thank you for your time and cooperation with
Hey, no
sharing this.
problem.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you. You're welcome. Yeah. So is that all from the
Yes.
end?
Yes.
Thank you so much. So
Okay, all right.
yeah.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much for your time as well. Yeah.
Thank you. Send my regards to Mr.
Hey,
Shukri.
hey, no problem.
All
No
right.
problem. Yeah. So
Have
glad
a
to
nice
see
day.
you. See you both. Yeah. You too. Have a nice day. Okay, bye-bye.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad and I will be presenting about my interviewee, my friend Kitjit Jibkun. We call him Jib as it's also his game attack when we're playing games. He's from Thailand and he's currently studying at Sri Patum University. The first question that I asked him is, do you recall your first experience interacting with English? His answer was, at 7 or 8 years old, he would always watch cartoons in English from in channels like Nickelodeon, Disney Channel, or Cartoon Network, and he always have Thai subtitles on. Moving on to the second question, I asked him, does he consider his country as a fluent English-speaking country? His answer, he only considers the city regions as being fluent while speaking with an accent, whereas the village areas are not as fluent. He also mentions that he doesn't have an accent because he grew up with English from the TV shows and his surroundings. And the last question that I asked him, are there any slang words or phrases that his country uses that other countries don't? Some of the phrases include mafia, used when referring to a group of friends, as well as fiao, for something cool or awesome. For the conclusion, is English widely spoken in Thailand? No. Through my findings, English is not widely spoken in Thailand, but it can certainly be found in larger cities and tourist-focused areas like Bangkok or Phuket. For traveling outside major cities, when you travel outside, you will less likely find people who can speak English. Although the country has been trying to rectify that by inducting English in its education system to boost the number of speakers. Right now, generally, you will find younger generation to be able to converse in English more so than the older generation. Nervous? Okay, don't worry.
Yeah.
Hello, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad, and with me today I have my friend. We call him Jeep. He's from Thailand, currently living in Bangkok. And he will be answering some of my questions for the variety of English assignment. Say hello, Jeep.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Hi. Are you ready for the first
Yes,
question?
go on.
All right, let's go. For my first question, do you recall your first experience interacting with English?
Do I recall my first experience interacting with English? I think it was back in when I guess I was 7 or 8 years old, where I would watch cartoons, and I wouldn't watch it in my native language. I would watch it in English with the subtitles translating it to my native language. I would say yeah, it's nothing really much about it really.
So, okay, so your first experience with English is through English cartoons.
Yes.
All right. Okay, so we're moving on to the second question. Do you consider your country as a fluent English speaking country?
I think it depends on the area. If it's in cities like Bangkok, Phuket, sure, you'll find plenty of people who can speak English. But if you go to village areas, you will find less people who can speak English fluently. Overall, I think my country is quite fluent in English with a bit of accent.
Understandable. And our next question, the last one. Don't worry, this it's very
Okay.
short. Are there any slang words or phrases that your country uses that other countries don't?
Some slang words we use. We have mafia that we use to refer as a close friend, like a close friend group. Like, this is my mafia, and English has a similar concept. We also use fiao when talking about something cool or awesome. Yeah.
Oh, that's a very interesting thing, a very interesting point, and I think that's all we have. That's all the questions I have for you today, and I hope you have a better what am I trying to say? I hope your day gets better, and thank you so much for agreeing to this interview.
I hope your days get better too.
All right, thank you, Jeep.
Okay, you're welcome.
Hi and Assalamualaikum. For this interview, I interview my friend, which is his name is Raj, and he's an Indian, and he live in Malaysia, and his occupation is receptionist at a hotel. For the first question, which is, do you recall your first experience interacting with English? For your information, the answer given was around 6 or 7 years old. He was interacting. He already interact with English language, and he always use English to interact with his grandfather in a daily conversation. And also he learned a few English from his grandfather, like pronunciation and spelling. And for the second question, which is, do you know how English first came into your country? For your information, the given answer for this question is during the British colonization, during the World War II, which is they at first Tanah Melayu always use bahasa until the British came, which they need to learn English to speak during their daily conversation, to have their daily conversation. And for the last question, which is, are there any slang word or phrases that your country use that other country don't? For the answer given, he said that the phrases or slang lah or meh are used by the Malaysian to indicate word can do something. I mean, like if a person said, could you help me with something? The Malaysian would reply can or can lah or can meh. So it will be a Manglish slang. And for the conclusion, the English used in Malaysia today is based on British English, and it is called Malaysian English. They follow British spelling. However, English slang is strong, especially among Malaysian youth. As for Malaysian youth, they always watch Netflix series or American TV show, such as Family Guy, Peaky Blinders, or even The Office. Like Malay, English play an important role to bridge the gap between dialect and language, such as among Chinese or Tamil speakers, so they can communicate comfortably. When talking to people who don't understand their language, they will instead use Malay, English, or a mixture mentioned before, which is Manglish.
Hi, Raj. Thank you for contributing with my assignment right now. So, could you please introduce yourself to us?
Yeah, I'm Harish Raj. Now I'm 20 years old and working at a hotel for my living.
Okay. So Raj, for your first question, do you recall
Mm-hmm.
your first experience interacting with English?
Pardon?
Do you recall your first experience interacting with English? So it's like your first exposure towards English language.
Yeah, I think my first conversation was between me and my grandpa when I was in kindergarten.
Kindergarten. So
Uh,
it was like
yeah,
5 to 6 years old, maybe.
yeah, I think so. Mostly he start with like he teach me how old are you and how to ask your name like that.
Or just like a simple English, just like how
Yeah,
to call your
the basic
name.
to people like that.
I see.
Yeah.
And yeah, thank you for the first question. And for the second
Oh,
one, do you know
mhm.
how English first come to your country?
Uh, as my experience, I think it comes along with British people who ruled our Malaysia during World War II, and it's been resulted with English speaker in Malaysia that like normal language, right?
Ah, I see.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. So, do you have any familiar slang word or phrases that your country use?
Yeah. There are a lot of words like can lah, can le, like that.
Yeah.
Uh, meh, like meh,
Meh.
meh, refer to like can, like that.
So, meh is a word of slang used to
Yeah,
show.
yeah. Mostly the Malaysian people use that word to add on to it some English words that can be only understand by Malaysian people only.
Ah, I see.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's all from me. So, thank
Okay.
you for sharing your time with me,
Yeah.
and I hope for the best for your job. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Okay, for the last interview, the interviewee's name is Khalid Kashmiri. He is from Pakistan and is working for 2 years in Indonesia. And for the first question, his recall for the first experience interacting with English is during early school years, which is basically in early age, and he is being fascinated by new sounds, words, and the possibilities. And after that, he learned a few English like pronunciation and spelling. Moving on to is he considered his country as fluent English speaking country? He said that he wouldn't necessarily label as a fluent English speaking country, and fluency levels vary among individuals. there are significant populations with limited proficiency. Last but not least, are there any slang words or phrases that his country uses that other countries don't? His answer is both of his country and India have a very similar slang, and linguistic nuances will add color and richness to their language, reflecting their cultural identity and local experiences. And lastly, the conclusion is in Pakistan, English is important because it's one of the English language official languages used in business, school, and government. People who speak English well are often seen as educated and higher status. But there are also efforts to promote regional languages to keep cultural identity strong. Pakistan is categorized as a developing country, and Pakistan, an underdeveloped country, is striving to accelerate its economic growth and catch up with the pace of the fast growing economies of the region. Let me introduce myself. My name is Muhammad Alif Ikhmal bin Zamzuri with ID number SEC22070194, and this is my interviewee from Pakistan. Do you recall your first experience interacting with English?
My first experience interacting with English was during my early school years when I started learning it as a second language. I remember being fascinated by the new sound, words, and the possibilities it opened up for communication with people from around the world.
Moving on to next question. Do you consider your country as fluent English speaking country?
While English is widely spoken in my country and is considered as a second language for many, I won't necessarily label it as a fluent English speaking country. Fluency level may vary among individuals, and while many people can communicate effectively in English, there are also significant population with limited proficiency.
For the last question, are there any slang words or phrases that your country uses that other countries don't?
I think yes, there are several slang words and phrases unique to my country that might not be widely understood in other countries. Let's take example like my neighboring country, India. Both of my co- both of my country and India have a very similar slang. Although this linguistic nuance add color and richness to our language, it may reflecting our cultural identity and local experiences.
Alright, thank you, Mr. Khalid, and I'm very grateful for your answers. We'll see again next time.